Hi, Laura Brzee, Executive Speech Coach at Memphis Speech Solutions. Today I'll be talking about the 3-minute thesis project that I had an outstanding time helping the graduate students at University of Tennessee Health Sciences Center plan and prepare for the competition, which is coming up very soon. I am going to sort of give you a brief run through about how, from a speech coaching perspective, what are we looking for in speeches and how can you create a very coherent message that has flow. One big component of a very well orchestrated script is that it has obvious transitions. Now, it's obvious to us as the ones who are listening for the speech, but whenever you are kind of a beginner in this and somebody's talking, you might say, oh, that's a really good speech, but I don't really know why. As a speech coach or somebody who is adept at being able to listen for the transitions, you see how the sections of your speech are placed in a way that creates a really well-organized, flowing speech, okay? I'm gonna provide a visual very quickly, but yeah, if you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comments. I hope that if you are planning for your 3-minute thesis, that this information, the planning, preparation, execution process for this is helpful. Okay, so thanks so much, and I will see you in the next video.
How to write a winning 3MT. First, I provided the resource for this slide. I encourage you to go and visit this wonderful website, Animate Your Science. And on this website, they provided a roadmap, which I think is a brilliant way to share the components of the 3MT. Starting with the beginning, you have your hook. You really want to move into encapsulating the big picture problem into your hook, okay? Because ultimately, the reason why it's 3 minutes is because you want to share why it is important, why does it matter, and how the general population can understand how it's relatable to them, okay? That's the point of the 3MT. It all came about with the notion that scientists are very complex thinkers and speakers. So sometimes whenever you're using science communication, it's hard for the general population sometimes to understand with a lot of complex language and jargon and specific science terms. So the 3MT is designed to help you simplify matters while also sharing your research and in the big picture, why does it matter? So as you go along in the roadmap, you'll see what is known, what is unknown, what is the knowledge gap. Essentially your research is going to fit into solving that knowledge gap between what is known and what is unknown. You're going to discuss your findings and the impact of the research, meaning what does it mean for the future? In the end, I call it the catch. Of course, if you're going to hook something, you'd like to catch it. In this case, you want to catch the listener's ears and their understanding and show how your research is relatable to them. In this next slide, you will see the transcript of the first part of the 3MT video. Okay, so you see the section, the hook. Have you ever wondered? Okay, the hook is the attention grab. And if you've listened to a lot of TED Talks, you'll understand that generally they're going to grab your attention with some sort of a visualization. Maybe it's a staggering statistic. Maybe it's a question. What if all of a sudden we were able to fill in the blank? Okay, so that's your hook, and it is going to relate to your research. So I personally suggest working on your hook and your catch, your ending, last. Okay, I personally think that once you jump into the questions of, as we go along, what does your research solve? What is the known? What is the unknown? How do you address the known and the unknowns? And sharing your findings in these boxes 2, 3, 4, and 5, that means you're basically going to be writing sentences, right? So I establish something that's going to solve something in the bigger picture. I explore, I discover, my research will advance. I intend to communicate. My research resolves the unknown, for example. So this is the part of the coaching where your work is to create your sentences. And that's the basis of starting your 3MT. When I conducted this coaching, I told them, this is very much like the metaphor. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? At this stage, I'm leading you to the water to say, start your sentences, write down in basic sentences, eliminating jargon. What is your research? How does it solve a problem in the big picture? What is known? How do you address the unknowns, and share your findings? And you can basically utilize these verbs, or hopefully it becomes a prompt for you to be able to create sentences to fill in the other components of the 3MT roadmap. Okay. So again, your call to action at the end, the hook, telling a story, a metaphor. You want to take all of this great information that you started out with the attention grab and bring it back around to the end to essentially help your listeners have a takeaway message. Okay. So I've provided this blank roadmap so that it can work in your favor to complete your sentences, start jotting down your ideas. And, it's going to take a little bit of time, but at least you now have a fundamental understanding and a rubric to be able to complete your sentences. And always think of the verbs as it relates to your research and what components you're working on. The other part of this slide is the last part of the transcript. You will see how in the video that I shared, there is a lot of blue. This individual focused a lot on the big picture. Imagine, what if? Again, you're bringing it home whenever you can use storytelling and metaphors about how your research is relatable to the big picture. And I think that is going to be it. All right. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments or reach out directly.
Have you wondered how fast your reaction time is? Let's find out. On the count of 3, clap once as quickly as you can. Nope. Not yet. On my count, 1, 2, 3. That quick reaction, a perfect harmony between your brain and body, is something we often take for granted. But however, there are millions of people with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease whose slowdown becomes a daily reality when they can't do such reactions. Simple things like walking smoothly, clapping your hands, or remembering these wonderful faces become increasingly difficult. Right now, doctors rely on very expensive brain scans and invasive tests that only provide a brief snapshot of what's happening in your brain and body. It's like trying to understand an entire movie's plot from just one pause scene. Clearly, we need a better way. My research addresses this gap using 2 powerful tools: artificial intelligence, AI, and everyday physiological signals. I measure physiological signals like brain activity using a portable EEG headset, your heart rate activity using your smartwatch, and your walking pattern using video recordings. Then I train AI to act like a skilled detective that constantly spots clues and changes in someone's daily movements, their speaking patterns, or even their typing speed. It learns what normal looks like for each person so it can detect tiny shifts long before they become noticeable symptoms. But I'm not stopping at looking at these signals individually. I'm also exploring how these signals interact with each other to provide a richer picture of the brain's communication network. Imagine your brain and body as musicians in an orchestra. Usually, they're perfectly synchronized. In Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, though, some instruments gradually fall out of sync or stop playing altogether. By tracking these disruptions, we can spot early signs of disease progression a lot sooner. This early detection matters enormously because it means interventions like drugs and other treatments can start sooner to reduce the damages diseases can cause. Imagine being able to track your brain health as easily as you can see your daily steps, or even knowing your heart rate activity right from the comfort of your home. Okay, now let's finish with one more synchronized count. On my count. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Next time you clap, whether cheering at a game or celebrating a loved one's celebration, remember, these are the moments I'm working so hard to protect. Thank you.